Are you a lifelong fan of General Hospital?
Are you a new fan who wants to know more about the history of the show?
Do you enjoy talking about the show with others?
Do you find yourself yelling at the TV?
Is your self-care an hour a day in Port Charles?
If so, we invite you to join hosts
Amanda Kimmel
and Shannon Coach at the place where all the hidden conversations take place and secrets are revealed.
Meet us at Pier 54,
a General Hospital fan podcast. Hello.
Hi.
Welcome to part 17 of Lucky and Liz, and we're only in 2002.
Oh my.
Part 23 of Lucky, again, only in 2002. We're going to work on trying to shorten up. But then there's
But it's Lucky.
But also, he has a really interesting storyline that comes up when the actor switches to Greg Vaughn.
Mm-hmm. Which is called the Year of Lucky.
Well, that's his drug addiction. It's kind of like when we talked about Alan and we talked about his pill addiction.
Yeah.
That was not that Lucky hasn't had, that included Liz too.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we'll just see. We'll see. So we left off last week with Sarah basically just came back into town. And
everyone was living at Windermere.
Everyone's living at Windermere. Nicholas and Gia are engaged.
Mm-hmm.
And Lucky and Liz were trying to fall back in love with each other.
Yep.
I think that's kind of where we ended, right?
Yeah, and it was talking about deception again because Gia announced she was going to be the new old face of deception.
Yes. So we pick up in March. So this episode is only March through the beginning of June 2002. And tired of her self-righteousness, Lucky urges Sarah to quit harping on his treatment of Liz. He wonders where Sarah's compassion went. Don't forget. So if you are kind of coming into late to this, or you forget the previous 22 episodes, way back in the beginning, we had Sarah first. Lucky had a thing for Sarah, and then Liz had a thing for Lucky. And, now we have Lucky and Liz.
Yep.
So Lucky assures her that his feelings for Liz are sincere. Sarah says she thinks his intentions are good, but his eyes don't reflect true love. Lucky senses that Sarah has been badly hurt and asks her about it. Sarah doesn't want to talk about it and goes out for some air. Oh, don't forget, she's been in Europe being a doctor, right? Or Greece.
Mm-hmm.
Greece. She was in Greece being a doctor. Sarah wanders down to, wherever. She was not here. Sarah wanders down to the stables of Windermere and cries as she rereads a worn note she removes from her pocket. Hold and wet. Sarah wraps herself in a horse blanket. See? Hold and wet. Gia and Nicholas would have been cold. Because in the last episode, they were getting some hanky-panky on down in the hay. Hanky-panky.
Oh my gosh.
I only had one coffee.
Okay.
and nothing was in it. It was a straight coffee shot.
I was going to say, what was it spiked with this morning?
No. Lucky searches for her as the storm continues. Funny how it's only raining on Spoon Island. Well, that does happen, though, around water. Sometimes it rains over the water and not on land. Lucky apologizes, grabs a blanket, and puts it over Sarah's shoulders. Sarah leaves, and Lucky looks longingly after her. He picks up her wet shirt with a puzzled look on his face. The next day, what are we doing with the shirt now? Okay. Lucky runs into Sarah as she is leaving for the hospital to work at the graveyard shift. Things are awkward between them. Lucky looks in on Elizabeth and asks himself, why can't he love her? Oh, the other thing was that Liz and Gia were involved in a car accident with Courtney, and Liz had forgotten a lot about the car accident.
Right.
But she was in the hospital. Nicholas and Gia arrive home after the club opening, and this was Carly's club, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And Nicholas is livid over Sonny's treatment of Gia. He says he can deal with Sonny and make some phone calls to check out Sonny's money trails. If you do that, then you're going to have to open up the Cassadine money trails, dude, and neither are good.
Right.
Gia thinks he is going too far. Nicholas explains that this is more serious than a traffic accident, and he will not let anyone hurt her, and he will not be crossed by anyone. Lucky walks in and wonders what's going on. Gia leaves, and Lucky gives his warning to Nicholas about turning into his father. Lucky asks Nicholas if he set it up to protect Gia, but Nicholas won't admit anything to his brother. He insists he didn't do anything to help Gia and that she didn't need help. Yes, you did. You lied and said that there was a blood test, and there wasn't.
Right.
He also thanks Lucky for pointing out that he sounds like his father. Nicholas brings up Lucky's treatment of Elizabeth and points out that they're both acting similarly, trying to protect the people they love. Gia bursts in on Elizabeth and wakes her up. She starts chatting about the party and the great time that Elizabeth missed. Yeah, that's exactly what you should be doing to your friend that's stuck in the hospital. Hey, by the way, while you're stuck here because, I was drunk and driving, here's the party you missed. Not cool, girl. She tells her how Sunny cornered her and even asked Elizabeth's help to get Sunny off her case. As she's rambling on, Elizabeth remembers the light was red. Once she remembers, she volunteers to call Sunny and tell him that she remembers, but Gia cuts her off and goes right back to talking about the club and how she is still the face of deception. Elizabeth falls back asleep. Nicholas falls asleep and has a nightmare that he is on trial. Stavros is a judge and beckons Nicholas to follow him and his ways to keep Gia. Nick wakes up in a sweat. At the hospital, Sarah is taking care of Helena. Luke is in the ER, dressed as a doctor. Sarah tells him that he should leave, but he wants to make sure that Sarah knows what Helena did to Lucky and Elizabeth, specifically that she tried to kill Elizabeth. Policeman comes in and arrests Luke for impersonating a doctor. Lucky arrives and fills Sarah in on Helena's attempt to poison Liz and advises her to remove herself from Helena's caregiving staff. Later, Sarah apologizes to Lucky for the way that she has been on his back about Liz and promises that he will have her support in this attempt to recapture their love because she can see is still the great guy she knew before. Nicholas visits his grandmother, who insists on speaking with him alone despite warnings from Gia, Lucky, and Mac. Once alone with him, she utters cryptic messages and instructs him to puzzle out its meaning. Mac gets called away as Helena is being wheeled into the elevator to be taken to surgery. Before leaving, Mac gives Luke one final warning to stay away from Helena and tells the officers to arrest Luke if they even see him on the same floor. As soon as Mac departs, Luke and Roy split up and head for the surgical floor. Luke arrives first and sees the gurney outside of the OR. He gives Helena a typical Luke greeting, but is stunned when the woman looks up and tells him that there has been a mistake. It's not Helena. Lucky bursts in with the news that Nick that Helena has disappeared. Mac questions if Nicholas had anything to do with Helena's disappearance, and Nicholas gets very angry at the insinuation. Lucky stops Nicholas from spilling the beans to Liz about Helena being on the lam. Nick says it would be better coming from him than to have her hearing about it somewhere else. Lucky swears to protect Liz at all costs while Nick warns him of giving Liz the impression that he's in love with her again. Okay, I feel like that's also just a nice thing to do is to...
Right.
It doesn't matter who it's coming from.
Right. I may not be in love with you, but I would like to let you know that the person who previously tried to kill you is no longer in custody and might come after you to kill you again.
Right. Like, I would care more about getting that information to you than you having to hear it from me.
Right.
I'd be more mad if someone would not pass along the message. If I called JD and was like, can you go tell Amanda that Ryan's trying to poison her? And he'd be like, you know what? That's better for you to tell her.
Right.
What is wrong with you?
just leave him alone for a few more hours till you can get there. It's fine. It really needs to come from you.
Sure, Ryan won't do anything. Sorry, Ryan. Anyway, Nick swears to protect Liz at all costs while Nick warns him of giving the impression that he loves her again. It's a small price to pay for her safety. A grim Lucky informs the prince. Lucky tries to distract Liz with talk of an exotic getaway for the two of them. Okay, that is giving it a bit too much then.
Yes.
And Liz is a little leery of his sudden sense of spontaneity. Don't even think about ratting me out to your brother, warns Lena. Who's she talking to? Where did Helena come from?
I don't know.
I'll just mention that darling Nikki. Ooh, that's a Prince reference. Sorry. It's probably not a Prince reference. That's a totally different darling Nikki. But aided and abetted my escape. Oh, Gia's not sure what to say. Okay, Helena obviously came
she's telling Gia. Yes, she's telling Gia, don't rat me out to Taggart.
Okay, but
I don't know where she
obviously somewhere
in
here, Helena, maybe Gia saw Helena in the hallway. Okay, we're going to put this together.
There you go.
From context clues that Helena ran into Gia in the hospital because Gia was just there with Liz. Okay, so that sounds like it could be right. Good call. Good job.
Thanks.
Gia's not sure what to say, and hearing her beloved Prince Charming nearing the stables. Oh, so I guess they're in the stables. Well, how did Gia get in this? Wait a second.
I like this next sentence.
Okay, whatever. And she quickly stuffs Granny back in some hay. Nick asks her why she didn't respond, and Gia covers by saying that she didn't want to spook the horse. So I guess they left the hospital and now they're back at Windermere?
I guess so, yeah. There should have been a better...
There's a big gap here.
They could have just started that next sentence with, back at Windermere, Helena says, don't even think of telling your brother.
Right. So Nick asked why she didn't respond. So I'm assuming that he was coming to the stables and was calling after her and she wasn't answering. So Gia tries to cover by saying she didn't want to spook the horse. He tells her that Helena's on the loose and that he's worried that the cops' first stop will be Spoon Island. He sticks his other foot in his mouth as he details the arrangements covering up her responsibility in the accident. Helena laps up every word.
Ugh.
That's what's kind of driving me crazy about Nicholas being all upset that people were going after Gia. She's guilty.
Right, exactly.
She did the thing. Why are you getting so mad about the fact that not everyone's buying your lie?
Yeah.
Anyway, later Gia uses the excuse of grooming Sheba, I'm assuming a horse, to hang out around the barn. Cue Helena, who promises to disappear forever if Gia will give her the cheese to do it. That is not actual cheese. That is money. I feel like we're watching like an old 40s detective thing, like, oh, that's what you say, see? Give me the cheese, see? Sorry, suddenly Helena's talking like
Oh my God.
Nick tells Lucky that Helena hasn't been seen, and Liz realizes what's going on when Sister Sarah barges in and tells her. Meanwhile, Lucky narrowly misses Helena at the stables. Gia tells Lucky that Helena is not at the stables. Lucky says he will kill Helena with his bare hands to protect Elizabeth. Helena, hiding behind some bales of straw, startles at the revelation and bumps a bridle hanging next to her. The noise causes Lucky to start searching the stall. Gia screams and tells Lucky that she saw a huge rat. She convinces him to take her back to the house. Elizabeth is shocked to hear from Sarah that Helena has escaped. She freaks out, imagining that Helena is nearby, watching and listening in the walls of the house. Oh, so I guess maybe now she's back at home. She wants to warn Lucky, but Sarah says he already knows. Elizabeth realizes that's the reason he wanted to take her away. Lucky and Gia come in, and Elizabeth confronts them about Helena. Doesn't he think she deserves to know the truth? They need to be honest with each other, she says, then storms out. Gia slips out during the fight, and Lucky yells at Sarah and declares that he lied to Elizabeth again to keep her safe. He says he's tired of apologizing for his actions. Sarah says it's her turn to apologize to him. She now realizes he's pretty special for not walking away from Elizabeth when his feelings changed. He doesn't hate her.
Right.
Lucky points out that he and Elizabeth have been through a lot. They were meant for each other. That kind of love can't just disappear, can it? He hopes his love for her comes back. Sarah agrees and touches his arm in sympathy. Lucky appears disturbed by her touch. He pulls away and says he's going to check on Elizabeth. But before he goes, he tells Sarah he's not mad. He was just helping her sister, and he's glad that they're friends.
Aww.
Oh.
Gia returns to the stables and looks around for Helena. Suddenly, she hears a loud squeak, and Helena pops up from behind some straw bales. She congratulates Gia on her earlier performance about the rat and says that she's a good liar. She's as good of a liar as Nicholas. She tells Gia it was careless of her to run the red light. Luckily, she has Nicholas to save her. Helena is so proud of him. He's so much like his father. She tells Gia she wants $500,000. Bring the money to her tonight, and she'll give Gia and Nicholas her blessing for a happy life. Gia goes back into the mansion and straight to the safe behind a painting. Nicholas catches her. If you have Cassadine money, do you really have $500,000 in a safe? Like, that's a lot of money.
I was just thinking that. I'm like, but I mean, I guess that's like having 5,000. I still wouldn't have 5,000 in a safe behind a painting in my house.
No.
But maybe that's the equivalent. 500? Maybe that's more in my ballpark.
Yeah. Like, if they would have said 50,000, I'd have been like, okay, like maybe you're doing business deals here or there, and in good faith, you need to put something down until you can get to the bank. But 500,000, that's
a lot.
That's crazy.
It's a lot of cash.
Yeah, that's like more than they would insure, I would think. I want to call my insurance agent and ask now. Like, excuse me.
No, they won't insure. They don't insure cash.
Oh, true. Right.
If your house burns down and you have a the mattress full of cash, it's off the boodles.
Yeah.
That's why you have to have it in a bank, and it's FDIC insured up until $250,000.
Right. So it's too much for the bank. There you go. There's my brain.
No, because it's separate accounts. Well, here, we'll just do this. So it's different accounts. It's not total.
Right. But that was one safe. So in one account, it would be too much.
But there's no way that they're going to insure 500. To be fair, I don't think the Cassadines even really care about insurance.
That's true. That's true.
Do you know what their liability would be just on the parapet alone? Do you know how many claims they would have had to have been paying out?
That's true. Okay.
That's why they have the $500,000. It's, you know what? This year we're planning on 5 people are probably going to fall off the parapet, 100 grand each. There we go. That's the parapet.
I like it. It is cheaper than insurance, so they are smarter. Okay, I should just trust the Cassadines.
Okay.
After catching Gia,
Neither of us are licensed or in insurance. Just throwing that out there. Neither of us are financial advisors. This is not our profession.
Like, I heard on this podcast, don't get homeowners insurance. Just keep enough money to pay people off in your home safe.
Nope. Absolutely not what we said.
After catching Gia trying to open the wall safe, Nick demands an explanation. Gia thinks fast and claims she wants lots of money to give to Lucky and Liz in case they need to make a fast escape. It's unclear whether Nick buys her story or not. As he is warning her that she needs to ask before she takes, Nicholas receives a call from his security. They have spotted someone down by the stables. Despite Gia's pleas, Nicholas insists on investigating himself. However, it is not Helena he finds in a stall, but Luke. Luke explains that someone saw Helena on the road headed in the direction of Spoon Island. Not really a road to Spoon Island. Like, I saw someone going down to the docks. Okay.
Well, remember, there is the, didn't we talk about the fact that the catacombs do go under the city?
I guess the catacombs.
Is that a road?
I don't know. Nicholas doesn't think Helena would show up at Windermere. No one there would help her, but Luke finds evidence that he believes indicates otherwise. After agreeing that Helena would need lots of money, they head up to the house to check the Cassadine accounts via a computer for any suspicious transactions. Entering the house via the tunnels, Helena, still pressing a hand to her abdomen, corners Gia again and pressures her to find a way to come up with more dough. Gia, hearing Nick and Luke approaching, tries to hurry Helena back into hiding. She is slowed down when, with a gasp of pain, Helena clutches her abdomen and doubles over. Gia tries to hurry Helena into hiding, but due to the pain in her abdomen, Helena is slow to move. She does, however, have enough breath to threaten to implicate Nicholas if Gia doesn't do something to help her. Out in the hallway, Luke and Nicholas' progress is delayed by Laura's arrival just long enough for Gia to help Psycho Granny into the tunnels. By the time the trio enters the office, it's empty. Luke pounds on Liz's bedroom door. Lucky, sorry. That would make it interesting. I assumed he was looking for Lucky. Lucky pounds on Liz's bedroom door. Liz finally opens the door but tells him she is still too angry to talk to him. Lucky refuses to leave until Liz hears him out. Lucky tries to explain his actions to Liz and convince her that he really does want to go away with her. Liz can't get over the fact that he lied, especially since Lucky declared he would do the same again to protect her. With Liz's angry words still ringing in his head, Lucky leaves but lingers outside her room for a moment. Sarah observes Lucky outside her sister's room, and after he walks away, she knocks on Liz's door and tells Liz that she was right about Lucky. Liz doesn't understand why Sarah has changed her mind about Lucky's attitude. Sarah says that Lucky must really care about her since he didn't walk away as soon as the love was gone. She says she thinks Liz should hang in a while longer. She believes Lucky isn't trying to hurt Liz, that he is a great guy, well worth the wait. After hearing Helena's riddle, Laura agrees with Luke that Helena is just messing with Nicholas's head. Lucky has arrived, and his advice to Nicholas is forget it. Luke decides a search for the tunnels is called for. He opens the bookshelf and finds Gia. Nicholas and Luke question Gia on why she's in the tunnels. Gia hastily spins a story about how she heard something and, thinking it might be Helena, decided to investigate but got lost. Laura commends her for being brave. Nicholas doesn't appear to really believe the story, and Luke insists on searching the tunnels. When he moves to open the bookshelf, Gia can't stop herself from calling out, "Wait, don't go in there." Luke asks why they shouldn't go into the tunnels, and Gia starts spinning more lies. She says that she already searched and found nothing. When they doubt she searched the whole 5-mile layout of the caves, Gia admits that maybe her outburst was brought on by residual fear from being lost in the caves. Laura proposes that they will be okay if they just work as a family. Gia, on the verge of tears, suddenly bursts out again. "I'm sorry. I'm so sorry." Luke jumps in on Gia's comment and wants to know what she is so sorry for. Gia, stalling for time, explains, saying that she just isn't a team player. Ask anyone. Nicholas appears concerned by Gia's nervousness. When Luke tells Lucky to follow him into the tunnels, Nicholas tries to stop them, but he is unsuccessful. Gia is upset, obviously afraid they'll find Helena, but she tells them it is because she feels unsafe. Laura is convinced Spoon Island is safe. Okay, Laura. The Spencers leave. Gia finds Helena at the stable and throws the money at her and tells her to get lost. Nicholas shows up, finding his grandmother, and tells her it isn't over quite yet. After arriving at the stables and confirming his suspicions, Nicholas angrily jumps on Gia for appearing to help Helena. He whips out his phone and is about to call the police when Helena tells him the nurse and orderly who helped her will swear that Nicholas pressured them to help her. Gia pleads with Nicholas to give Helena the money and let her go. Helena adds that she knows Gia ran the light and Nicholas tampered with a witness to cover it. Taggart shows up to check on Gia. Helena hides in a stall, while Nicholas and Gia manage to convince him all is okay. Helena thanks Nicholas for covering for her, but Nicholas tells her he didn't help her, he's helping the people he loves. Gia, Lucky, Liz, Alexis, Christina, Laura, Leslie, Lou, even Luke. Helena tries to convince him she is no longer a threat, that she has no will for revenge now that her precious Stavros is gone. She says that she doesn't think he is worthy of taking over, since he would rather align himself with the enemy and deny his father every chance he gets. Luke goes back to Windermere to search for Helena, yet Nicholas is determined to give her the money and let her go. She tells Nick that she loves him, but he tells her to get lost. Nicholas tells his disturbed grandmother that if she ever hurts those whom he loves, that he will kill her. Luke knows that Nicholas has let Helena escape, and he reprimands him for doing so. Nicholas has another nightmare about being handcuffed and in jail. His father is the guard and tells him that they are ready to take him to prison for being like him. In it, Nicholas fights his father's influence, but takes him over and he blasts the people he cares about. His cuffs disappear and he's free after he admits how much he loves bending people at his will and having power. He then wakes up suddenly in a sweat. He stalks around the room with his father's voice echoing in his head. Nicholas and Gia worry about Helena returning. Nicholas assures Gia that Helena is gone. Lucky comes in desperate to find Liz. He is worried that Helena has taken her since she isn't at Windermere. Gia says that she probably just went down to Kelly's for a bite to eat. Gia tells him not to blame himself for Liz's disappearance.
And Liz is at Bobby's talking about the problems between her and Lucky. Bobby asks her if she is giving up on him. Bobby asks her if she is giving up on Lucky. Liz says that Lucky is trying too hard to make things work with them, and she found out that he was only trying to protect her from Helena, that he wasn't with her because he loved her. Liz is surprised to hear Bobby say that maybe Liz should just let it go if it's too much trouble. Love shouldn't be like breaking rocks. Bobby's final words are to comment that Liz isn't doing anything to work on the relationship, and she should at least meet Lucky halfway. Lucky and Sarah arrive at Liz's studio and find a wet paint note to some delivery person that she'll be right back. She wrote a note, like on a sheet of paper, that she'll be like right back, I guess.
She didn't have a pen.
She only had paint. They are relieved that she is safe, but Lucky worries that Liz is running around town with Helena on the loose. Sarah gets paint on her hand, falls off a stool while reaching for a towel. Lucky catches her and gets blue paint on his shirt. This, of course, means he has to remove it. Does it, though? The shirt's gone, man. If it's oil-based, rinsing it out's not going to do anything, right? He leans in around her. She leans back and looks him in the eyes. She nervously pulls away from him, saying it would break Liz's heart. Of course, she walks in at that moment.
No one even say that.
Right. When Liz, after arriving to find Sarah and half-naked Lucky, asks if she needs to scratch her sister's eyes out, they quickly try to explain the paint, the fall, and the washing of Lucky's shirt. They're all relieved when it turns out that Liz is just kidding. Apparently, she really, really, really trusts them. After Liz apologizes for worrying them and explaining that she took a guard with her to Bobby's, Sarah leaves them alone. Liz tells Lucky that she got good advice from Bobby and is now back in the game and intends to meet him halfway. At Lucky's puzzled look, she explains that Bobby pointed out that she had become a spectator in their relationship. I'm not going to agree with that one, though, because she tried for over a year while he was under the spell of the Ice Princess to get him back. I mean, she might be a little bit tired right now. She might be like, dude, you know what? I got you back from your spell. Maybe you need to step it up a little bit more. I'm not gonna lower, but
Right.
She assures Lucky that she is willing to take the risk of getting hurt. She already has. However, she didn't want to think about that now, and she wants to go dancing. So at Club 101, Liz and Lucky are happily dancing to the music when it changes to a slow, sultry song. Lucky wants to sit down, but Liz climbs onto the bar to get the DJ's attention and requests something with a beat. When he obliges her, she begins to dance on the bar. Nicholas
This must
and
have
Gia,
been Coyote Ugly time.
oh yeah, it would have been 2002. When he obliges her, she begins to dance on the bar. Nick, Gia, and Sarah arrive in time to witness the dance. Nick and Gia are happy to see Liz and Lucky having fun, but Sarah does not appear to share the feeling. Later, Lucky gets why? Because he took off his shirt that got paint on it.
Right. Now she suddenly can't resist him.
Later, Lucky gets called away by a frantic phone call from Elton. It seems that there are photos missing, and it has Elton in a tizzy. Liz joins the others and proposes a toast. Here's to putting the accident behind us. As others lift their glasses, Liz has several flashbacks. The group toasting at the Port Charles Grill before the accident, the conversation in the car right before the accident, looking up and seeing the red light, yelling at Gia to stop because the light was red. Nick, Gia, and Sarah are concerned when Liz freezes up. As the memories of the accident come flooding back, Liz excuses herself and hurries to the ladies' room. As time passes, Liz does not return. Sarah becomes concerned and decides to check on her sister. In the ladies' room, Liz brushes aside Sarah's protective gesture and concern and asks her sister if she knows how much Gia drank the night of the accident. Sarah tells Liz that though Gia denies drinking her champagne, she remembers Gia draining the glass, despite saying that Nicholas drank it. She also informs Liz that Gia did not have the blood alcohol test done at the hospital after the accident as required. Liz asks Sarah if anyone else knows. Sarah admits Nicholas. Liz asks Sarah to give her another few moments alone and not to mention to others what they have spoken about. Gia seeks Liz out in the ladies' room. When Gia's rambling touches the subject of the accident, Liz confronts her with the truth. She tells Gia she remembers the accident, and Gia tries to convince Liz that she is confused, but Liz realizes that Nick and Gia pressured her to give a false statement to the police. She also realizes that they used her to help frame Sonny's sister, Courtney. When Liz wonders how Nick would do this, Gia immediately puts her foot down, and when she blurts out, "Leave Nick out of this, he's having enough trouble because of what I did?" Which leaves Liz with the question, "What do you mean?" An obviously nervous Gia tries to convince Liz that she's confused about the details of the accident. When Liz threatens to go to Taggart with her memory and let them sort it out, Gia quickly blocks the door. After another slip by Gia, Liz realizes that Nick paid the witness to finger Courtney as the culprit. Gia finally admits that she ran the red light. She goes on to tell Liz that when Taggart assumed Courtney ran the light, she agreed because she was still confused. By the time she'd remembered, everything had snowballed and it was too late. She then made a mistake of saying it was no big deal since Courtney only got a ticket. That gets Liz upset, and she rails at Gia for lying to the police and for corrupting an honest guy like Nick. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And for helping Nick keep her in the dark. They return to the dance floor where, while Gia gives Christina sketchy details, Liz vents her anger on Nick. Nick tries to explain, but Liz can't get over the fact that Nick, the one person she trusted to always tell her the truth, not only conspired to frame an innocent person, but use her in the process. After Liz storms out, Gia approaches Nick, wondering what Liz will do next. Luke sneaks up on Lucky while he is in the dark room and scares him. Luke tries to point out that Helena can show up anywhere, and Lucky needs to be on guard. Luke informs his son that Nicholas helped Helena. Lucky, of course, doesn't buy it. Luke says she is holding something over Gia and Nicholas. Luke informs him that Helena was hiding out at Windermere and that they helped her escape. Lucky assumes that he's joking. Lucky says he has a hard time believing that Nicholas would do something to hurt someone he loves. Enter Elizabeth to offer more proof. Before she can go into specifics, Luke gets a call from Roy and heads off to the arcade. Liz fills Lucky in on all the details of Nicholas's bad doings. She is in utter disbelief. He compares his brother's actions to Helena's brainwashing. She suddenly understands what Lucky went through all this time. She does admit all the good things that Nicholas has done for her, but she doesn't know what to do. Lucky tells her to get her things and Sarah and move back in with her grandmother. They head off to Windermere to give Nicholas a piece of their mind. At Windermere, Nicholas reassures her that the accident was over and they wouldn't lose anything worth having. Lucky and Liz show up at that point and hear Nicholas. Does that include me, brother? Lucky asks. Lucky rails at Nick and accuses him of being a credit to his Cassadine name. Nick insists that he was only doing what was necessary to protect his loved ones. Lucky thinks that Nick was only protecting Gia. Lucky insists that Nick will answer the question of whether or not he helped Helena escape the island. When Nick denies helping her, Lucky calls him a liar. Gia tries to defend Nick. Lucky blows her off, saying she no longer carries any weight with him. Lucky announces that he, Liz, and Sarah are moving off the island. So I guess Liz was at Windermere, not in the hospital earlier. So that's how they ran into Helena in Windermere. They weren't in the hospital, right? No, because Luke saw Helena at the hospital. Never mind. Ignore all that.
Yeah, I think that she was still in it. Just, again, she moved at some point and they didn't announce that she was released from the hospital.
Yeah.
So, Liz and Lucky Liz and Lucky arrive at the PCPD to turn Gia in. Liz tells Lucky to be sure he really wants to implicate Nicholas. She warns him that he won't be able to take it back once it's done. She assures him he doesn't need to do it to prove anything to her. Luke arrives with Helena and the police escort. Lucky tells him what he learned about Nicholas and Gia. Luke tells Lucky that he will have to decide whether or not to turn Nicholas in. Either way, Luke promises to support Lucky's decision. Nicholas and Gia arrive just in time to goad Lucky into telling Mac and Taggart how Nicholas was blackmailed into helping Helena. Lucky explains that Gia was responsible for the accident, that she was drinking that night, that Nicholas only used his influence at the hospital to avoid the blood alcohol test, but he also paid off the witnesses. Lucky then goes on to say that both Nicholas and Gia fed Liz fake details to get her to remember the accident the way they wanted her to do. Laura arrives just in time to hear Lucky encourage Helena to confirm his story. Helena happily rubs in Laura's face how her sons are at each other's throats. Alexis and Christina arrive just in time and hear Helena spouting off. But in the end, she denies that Nicholas helped her. Lucky flies at Helena in a rage, but Luke calms him and gets him to take Liz and leave. Alexis wonders why they are all standing around listening to Helena's venom. Christina says her piece to Helena. Luke wants to accompany Helena until she is at the federal prison. Taggart balks, but Mac agrees to let him observe, hoping that once Luke is satisfied, he will be off of his and the department's backs. Lucky gazes unhappily at Windermere. Liz tries to get Lucky to see that it's not worth the energy to obsess. She believes that Nicholas and Gia will get what's coming to them as things have a way of working out. She cautions Lucky not to fall into the dark trap. Lucky does not want to leave things unresolved. Liz tells Lucky she will be waiting at Kelly's while he thinks about it. Lucky wanders the docks and rages at losing his brother while he smashes some empty crates. Lucky comes in agitated and needing advice about how to deal with his duplicitous brother. Laura comes back into the room and she and Luke try to help Lucky. Laura points out that Nicholas is struggling right now and Lucky shouldn't let his relationship with his brother be torn apart. But we made a pact not to let the past feuds touch us, Lucky said. Luke says that Helena is to blame and they've all felt the sting of her plots. But there's no excuse for letting Helena escape, Lucky emphasizes. Laura asks him if he really wants to go after his own brother. She and Luke both stress that Nicholas made a mistake like they all do. Laura says she needs his family's help to pull him off the wrong path, and she urges Lucky not to do something he'll regret. Still in turmoil, Lucky leaves. Alone in his study at Windermere, Nicholas is suddenly grabbed by the throat from behind. It's Lucky who has him in a death grip. Lucky asks if his brother is getting the idea of how it feels to be blindsided by someone you thought you could trust. Nicholas tries to convince Lucky that hurting each other won't fix anything. Lucky doesn't let go, but says that it's because he doesn't want to hurt Laura. Lucky does let go, but says that it's because he doesn't want to hurt Laura. They exchange bitter accusations. Each accuses the other of being like his father. Nicholas insists that he still loves Lucky, but Lucky doesn't believe Nick is sincere in his apology, since Nicholas didn't actually admit to any wrongdoing. Nicholas wonders if they are doomed to repeat their family legacy of hatred. Lucky claims that he's no longer considers Nicholas to be his brother and announces that he is going to Luke's party and drink to Helena's demise. Before he walks away, he mentions that he'll have a drink in honor of his brother's demise too. Lucky returns to his mother's house in a much better mood, which has Laura hopeful that her sons have worked out their differences. Lucky tells her that he will not fight with Nicholas, but her hopes of a big happy family are dashed when Lucky informs her that he can't forgive his brother. He, in fact, no longer considers Nicholas to be his brother. Laura is hurt and warns Lucky that she doesn't feel she should have to choose between them. Lucky assures her that he does not expect her to do so. Luke throws a party at his club. Lucky isn't enjoying the party much, and Sarah sits down and tries to console him. When she mentions that she knew Gia didn't take a blood alcohol test, Lucky turns his eye on her. How could she let that happen? Elizabeth breaks up the bickering and tells Lucky to lay off her sister. Sarah decides to leave the party, but Elizabeth stops her at the door. Sarah says she needs some time to rest before going to work. She also suggests that the sisters getting an apartment together is not such a great idea. She really thinks they would get along better not living together. We never knew they were talking about an apartment, but okay.
Yeah. Yeah, last we heard they were talking about moving out of Windermere and going back to Graham's.
Right, exactly.
Okie doke.
All right, I'm just making sure I didn't miss something because I'm like, what are we talking about here?
Hey, if you did, I did.
All right. Taggart interrupts and apologizes to Elizabeth on behalf of his sister. He also tells her he'll do anything he can to help her ever. In return, he asks if she will help Gia realize what Nicholas has turned into. Elizabeth says she would be willing to try if it would help, but Gia won't listen to her anything she has to say on that subject anyway. Lucky and Luke discuss what they can do to get Nicholas back. Luke thinks it's a bad idea. Lucky toys with the idea of pretending to make up with Nicholas and moving back into Windermere in order to spy on him. Luke really suggests that he just drop it. At that, the uninvited Mr. Cassadine and Gia show up at the party. In the dead silence following Nicholas and Gia's arrival, Luke amicably greets the young prince and then tells him it's a private party. Nicholas says he thought it was to celebrate the end of the war with Helena. Luke says he's not sure the war is over. Another phase could be beginning. He adds with a meaningful glance at Lucky on the other side of the bar. Lucky gets up and comes over to Nicholas. You don't belong here, he tells his brother. Nicholas disagrees and gives a long speech about how he is just as happy as anyone else that Helena is in jail. Lucky points out that when the going got tough, Nicholas went with Helena. So I'm your enemy now, Nicholas wants to know. Surprisingly, Lucky says Nicholas is not his enemy. He's also no longer his brother or his friend. You're nothing to me, he informs Nicholas. Gia springs to her fiancé's defense, reminding Lucky that Nicholas risked his life and their future together to save him when he was under Helena's control. He could have easily chosen Helena and Stavros, she says, but he fought for us. No one's perfect, she states. Then Gia says that Nicholas loves Lucky and Lucky loves him too. That love is something you'll never be able to get rid of, she says. Lucky looks slightly moved, but still orders Nicholas to leave, then heads for Luke's office. Liz goes after him. Nicholas thanks Gia for her kind words. Taggart comes over and tells Gia he loves her. She and Nicholas leave. Luke tries to get the party going again. To Roy, he says he can't micromanage Lucky's life. Liz comes back in and goes over to Sarah. She tells her that she can't find Lucky anywhere and asks her help in finding him. Sarah finds Lucky drinking a beer at Jake's. She says Elizabeth sent her and asks him not to drive. Lucky angrily hands over his keys and tells her to leave him alone. Not only will she not comply with that order, Sarah talks back, telling Lucky not to take his problems out on her. She doesn't know what it's like to lose the things you most value, Lucky says bitterly. Yes, she does know how it feels, Sarah says, and runs out. Sarah's a little dramatic.
Remember, we also don't know what that letter that she was reading.
We don't know, but she's always like running off somewhere. Like, just stay put, girl. Come on. Anyway, Lucky follows her into the alley to apologizes. Before you know it, they're kissing. Lucky and Sarah don't see Gia approaching. She, however, does see them and quietly goes back the way she came. As soon as their lips unlock, Lucky quickly starts to offer apologies, but Sarah tells him there is no need. She admits that she has felt an attraction to him since the night they saw each other in the barn. Lucky tells her that he intends to let Liz in on the fact that they kissed because she has asked him to be completely honest with her. Sarah protests, stating that Liz would not be able to handle the information because her whole life she has felt as though she was competing against her sister. If they were to tell Liz they have feelings for each other, well, Liz would never forgive either of them. So they have feelings for each other? They
Yeah.
kiss. Sarah asks Lucky if he still wants to love Liz. When Lucky answers in the affirmative, Sarah fills him in on the fact that while she was in medical school in Prague, she met someone. They fell deeply in love and were married a few short but happy months. She describes the devastating explosion that killed her husband and tells him that she has not told anyone else, not her parents, Audrey, or even Liz. Witnessing her pain, Lucky comforts her with a hug. That's right, you can give her a hug. We don't need to kiss her anymore. Elizabeth runs into Nicholas on the docks and looks none too happy to see him. Liz tries to walk away from Nicholas, but he pleads with her to give him a chance to apologize. Nicholas gives her a touching speech on how much he misses everyone he has hurt and how Stavros haunts his dreams with congratulations on becoming just like him. He begs Liz to intercede with Lucky on his behalf. Liz takes offense when it seems like he is only apologizing to her to help him get back with Lucky. She tells him that Lucky trusted him more than anyone else in the world, and Nick betrayed that trust. She tells him that part of the problem is the fact that Nicholas won't admit to what he has done. She wonders how either she or Lucky could ever completely trust him again. Gia has overheard the last part of Liz's words and quickly jumps in and defends her fiancé. She tells Liz that no one's perfect, that everyone lies, even Lucky. Nicholas asks Gia to stay quiet, but Gia tells Liz that she just saw Lucky and Sarah at Jake's and they were kissing. Liz calls Gia a liar, announcing that she wants nothing to do with either of them and warns them to stay away from both her and Lucky.
Sarah and Lucky admitted feelings for each other.
Ugh.
They struggled with the new discovery. Sarah begged Lucky not to tell Elizabeth, for she would not understand and it may cost them Elizabeth. Sarah told Lucky that it was only one kiss and it does not have to change anything. We both have a future with Elizabeth if we just don't tell anyone about the kiss. Lucky did not agree because after the wedding, or the almost wedding, he had promised Elizabeth that he would be truthful to her. Sarah broke down and told Lucky that she was married for 3 months and now a widow. Her husband died in an unfortunate explosion in Bosnia. Okay, who's lying here then? Like, you literally have not even told your sister that you're a widow.
Right.
Like, come on. Can't be a selective liar. Her husband died in a unfortunate. Sarah confessed to Lucky that she had not shared this information with anyone, not even her parents, because it was just too painful to speak about him. Lucky shared Sarah's loss of love. How? And they embraced each other. Dude, you were held hostage. You were brainwashed. That is not the same thing. And
Nope.
You are now supposed to be trying to get back together with that person that you lost.
Not kissing her sister.
Right. Gia found Nicholas begging Elizabeth for help with Lucky. Nicholas asked Elizabeth to help him repair his relationship with his brother. Elizabeth refused and basically told him to take a flying leap. Gia was furious and told Elizabeth that Nicholas was not the only person to deceive her because she had just come from finding lying Lucky and your tramp sister kissing, no, groping outside of Jake's. Elizabeth told Gia to shut up and not say another word. Nicholas was upset with Gia for spoiling his efforts to bring Elizabeth to his side. Gia assured him that she did see Lucky and Sarah kissing. Elizabeth left and headed to Jake's and found Lucky and Sarah hugging, and she was stunned. Aww. And then this was in celebration of GH's 10,000th episode. The hospital staff and friends celebrated Audrey's 10,000th day of work.
Aww.
They gave her a lovely heart pendant, and there were several musical montages. Curly Cute Girl's favorites were The Danger Zone, the Top Gun song, with clips from across the years, including some young Lucky. I do like when they do montages and they include, it doesn't matter who the cast was, like when Edward passed away or when Lila passed away, they included all the Edwards, I like that. Okay. With clips from across the years, including some Lucky. This was followed by memorable weddings, including Liz and Lucky with Jonathan, when they first said their informal and unofficial vows in the church. Then it was a kissing scene montage. Outside of Jake's, Elizabeth stares in shock at the sight of Lucky and Sarah with their arms around each other. Unaware that Liz is listening, Sarah tells Lucky, you know what? When did this start? March 2002? I would have just become a mom around this time. This would have been because April 1st is... Oh, wait, it doesn't say for the anniversary. It just says for the 10,000th episode. Sorry, I was thinking the anniversary. But either way, April 2002, became a mom. So I'm wondering, did I watch this?
Congratulations, being a mom.
Oh, thank you.
I was not. I would have just been almost engaged at that point. So I was not pregnant with Emily just yet.
Unaware that Liz is listening, Sarah tells Lucky that they must pretend that nothing has ever happened between them. Lucky expresses the regret that he can't feel the way he used to about Liz anymore. Liz angrily throws items that Lucky gave her, including her coat, into the harbor, unaware that Zander is sitting nearby and watching her. Surprisingly, Zander lends a sympathetic ear as Liz unburdens her feelings. As Liz vents, she realizes that despite the pain, she is glad that everything is out in the open and that she and Lucky can stop trying so hard. She thanks Zander for being a friend, even though she hasn't always been very nice to him. Xander explains that when Emily broke up with him, all he wanted was for someone to listen and sympathize, so he understands what she is going through. At GH, Sarah sits staring at a picture of Lucky with his arms around both Weber sisters, while Lucky finds a piece of jewelry with Sarah's name on the ground outside of Jake's and holds it tenderly.
Yuck.
Liz tests Lucky by asking about the previous night, and Lucky dodges the questions about her sister, and then suggests they make a fresh start with the Caribbean vacation that they had planned. They had originally planned. No, he had planned it.
Mm-hmm.
Later at the hospital, Sarah also lies to Elizabeth about the night before. Later still, they both rush to meet at the hospital, on the hospital roof, unaware that Liz has sent the messages and is in the background listening to their conversation. So did she, message each of them to meet the other one there?
Right, pretending that she was the other person.
2002. Would that have been a text?
I don't know. I wasn't texting then.
I wasn't either.
I think that was still pay per text. I don't even know if we had text then.
I think we did, but I know I didn't have a cell phone for a while. We got rid of them because we didn't need them. And so we just had our landline. And now we don't have landlines anymore.
Nope.
So yeah, I feel like this maybe they were AIMs. Maybe they were instant messengers.
Oh my God, that would be
What do you think their
funny.
screen names were? What was your screen name?
God. I did not have one. I did not have... Okay, so I've told you before, my dad was into computers from the beginning of time. So when everyone else was getting the that CD to go online and join the world, my dad was like, you don't need this stupid CD to get on the internet. I don't know why the whole world thinks that you have to have this. So we never had AOL. I never had an AOL name.
Huh.
I never went into the chat rooms. I never did any of that because we never used that CD. I can find out what Ryan's was. He still has an AOL email address. I laugh at him all the time.
No. Mine was Giggles Goddess 24.
Oh, that's cute.
Because my manager at McDonald's always called me Giggles.
That is very cute.
I'm sure that's a shock, actually, now that I think about it. What was your screen name? Email us at pier54podcast@gmail.com. Okay, back to the messages. When they realized that neither of them sent the messages, Liz stepped out of the shadows and informs them that they are busted. With all the venom and wrath that Liz can spew, she tells them that she had seen them kissing. She sarcastically tells them that she is done with them. Lucky tries to convince Liz that the kiss was nothing and that he is mixed up. Please tell me the truth, Lucky. Wouldn't you enjoy kissing Sarah again? He looks rather speechless. Liz says, I release you. She slaps a rather pathetic-looking Lucky and leaves. When Sarah returns, Lucky looks sheepish again. Sarah returns to the roof and tells Lucky that she saw Liz leaving. Lucky confides in Sarah that Liz has broken up with him permanently. He admits that he was unable to return the love that she offered him. Sarah thanks Lucky for helping her out of a bad place, but believes they must resist each other in order to not hurt Liz further. I'm already over this.
Mm-hmm.
Lucky tries to get Sarah to repair the damage done to the sisters' relationship. Sarah tries to get Lucky to stop blaming himself, but when she reaches out and touches him, the attraction is obvious and mutual.
Ugh.
At Club 101, Nick and Gia sit with some new friends, quote, new friends, who are curious about the opening night's, quote, fight. Liz shows up and Nick tries to act as if everything is okay with them. Furious, Liz takes out her anger and frustration by warning the newcomers to watch what they say to Nick and never get in the car with Gia. She calls Nick a manipulator and Gia a liar. Embarrassed, Gia tries to convince Elizabeth that she's making a mistake and acting self-righteous. Unaware that Maxie is listening, Liz lays into Gia and reads her a long list of all of Gia's faults. Liz warns Gia that the love she and Nick will share will not last, and expresses the hope that she will be around to witness when Nick starts lying to Gia, if he hasn't already. Maxie approaches and expresses concern about Liz and Lucky, and this is still high school Maxie.
Mm-hmm.
After Liz informs her that she and Lucky are over with no hope of reconciliation, Maxie rushes to GH. She finds Lucky still on the roof and offers a friendly ear. She is delighted when Lucky offers her a ride home after learning she has arrived in a cab. Liz comes down the stairs at Kelly's as we hear a voice on the radio announce a car crash off of Bluff Point Road. Liz tries to avoid Lucky with no success, and Lucky wants to talk, but she doesn't. When Sarah walks in, she tells him his date has arrived. Sarah tries to approach her, but Liz gives her grief for wanting her ex-boyfriend. Not just an ex-boyfriend, like ex-fiance, yeah.
And brother of her ex-boyfriend.
Uh-huh.
Ew.
Sarah gets sarcastic and points out the obvious. Lucky breaks up a potential fight between Zander and some man about a ding on Xander's car. Lucky pulls him away, and Zander starts ranting about beautiful women, giving up on women, how terrible women are, etc. Lucky wonders what he is ranting about. Xander ends up telling Sarah that whoever he is, her boyfriend isn't good enough for her. Lucky tells him to leave her alone. Zander doesn't back off, and Lucky grapples with him all the way out the door. The two men fight violently. They separate on their own and start laughing and shaking hands as Sarah watches. Men are so weird.
Mm-hmm.
Lucky lets Zander know who Sarah is, and the two men talk about the bad year. They go in for coffee, and Lucky tries to find out who the lady in question was. They hear about the accident. Upon hearing the description of the car, Zander goes rushing out. Later, Jax arrives at Kelly's and asks Lucky if he has seen Carly. Jax is surprised that she isn't there since he is late. It was Carly's car that went off the cliff, and she is presumed dead for a while until she resurfaces at her own funeral, as one does.
Exactly. I'd expect nothing less from Carly.
Of course.
Liz is at Bobby's venting. They hear news update on the accident, but Michael changes the channel before they hear all the details. Bobby tells her that she wasn't out of line for busting Sarah and Lucky, and that some men are ultimately untrustworthy. Liz wishes Sarah had not returned. Bobby can't really understand the sister rivalry. Liz lists all the reasons she is not as good as Sarah. Liz wonders if Lucky was pining for Sarah. Liz is ready to start looking out for herself. Bobby helps Liz try to figure out where she should live. She doesn't want her living in her studio. Bobby invites her to live with her, and Liz accepts. Marcus drops by the deception photo shoot to give Lucky a word of warning. After Gia arrives on the set, Elton has a hard time keeping the peace between Gia and Lucky. They bicker continuously while on the set. Lucky quickly calls a wrap to the session, claiming that he has enough pictures and can get more later on at a different set if needed. After Lucky's abrupt halt of the photo session, Gia will not let him walk away and demands he hears her out again. She tries to convince him that Nicholas is pining away for him and Liz, but Lucky will have none of it. Instead, he gets on Gia's case for telling Liz that she saw Lucky and Sarah kissing. They argue some more. Suddenly, Nicholas shows up and tells Lucky this has got to stop. Lucky denies Nicholas's accusations of leaving a cryptic message at Windermere in an attempt to mess with his mind. Gia attempts to play peacemaker by claiming she believes Lucky didn't do it. Nicholas refuses to believe Lucky, though, and after another exchange of harsh words, the brothers find themselves further apart than when they finally do part company. Back on the set, Maxie and a couple of friends drool over the hunky photographer Lucky. Maxie tells her friends about her close relationship with him and then strikes up a conversation with him to prove it. Lucky is amused by the girls and even lets them help pack up the camera equipment. When Lucky goes to load up his car, the girls ask Maxie if he's available. Maxie confides that Lucky just came out of a long-term relationship, but warns the other girls that she has first dibs on him. When her friends say Lucky is out of her league, Maxie pulls Lucky aside for a private word. Your friends are very good friends if they tell you that some guy is out of your league.
Yeah. I mean,
They're
out of
supposed
your
to be
age?
like, yes, he's a little too old for you, sure, but out of your league, like you're not good enough for him. Those are not good friends.
Right.
Gia summarizes the photo shoot incident and tells Laura that she won't put up with being treated that way and demands that Laura either fire Lucky or find herself a new face of deception. Lucky overhears the demands and puts his 2 cents worth in. He has no problem doing his job despite the tension between him and his model and claims he can prove it. Lucky produces the proofs of the photo shoot. He and Laura agree that it's some of the best work he's ever done. As a parting shot, Lucky adds that if Gia can't handle her end of the job, then maybe she should be replaced with Vivica Joel. I have no idea who that is. Bobby snaps at everyone gathered as they try to console her. Bobby finally breaks down and cries on Luke's shoulder, but insists that her daughter is still alive. Upstairs, Laura and Liz manage to keep Michael distracted and finally get him to settle down and go to sleep. Meanwhile, outside, Lucky continues his agitation towards Nicholas when they later stop to offer Bobby his support and help. Bobby stops the ensuing argument, warmly welcomes Nicholas, gladly accepts his help, and informs Lucky that whether he likes it or not, she considers Nicholas family. Bobby gets very upset when, after going to check on Michael, she realizes he is not in his bed where Laura and Liz left him, and the back door is wide open. Bobby realizes that Michael is missing when Lucky and Nicholas, who are outside the front door, confirm that they did not see the child. Everyone jumps in and tries to find him. Nicholas suggests they need to put aside their differences, at least during the crisis, but Lucky isn't interested. If they said they didn't see him, wouldn't that make you feel better? Doesn't that mean he didn't go out that door?
Yeah.
Okay. Liz and Lucky.
I don't know.
All right. I thought maybe I misread it, and then I was like, no, because if they saw him, they would have stopped him and been like, hey, buddy, go back inside. So Liz and Lucky have an uncomfortable moment outside the brownstone when their respective searches cross paths. Lucky suggests they team up to search, but Liz refuses. Lucky rushes to the hospital and asks Sarah to check the admission records for anyone matching either Carly or Michael's description. Tony overhears and joins the search for the missing child. The anguish brings bad memories for Sarah. Lucky reaches out to her in comfort, and Liz arrives at that moment. After Lucky leaves, Sarah tries to apologize to Liz again, but Liz will have none of it. Liz bitterly tells Sarah that she has won. He is all hers. Luke and Nick also cross paths at the park in their search for Michael. Nicholas shows up with news that Carly's purse was found in the lake by one of the divers. It's bad news. However, Bobby is delighted to hear that not only is Nicholas giving up the search, but also he intends... Bobby is delighted...
shouldn't be glad that he's not in his room because, he was supposed to be in bed.
He was supposed to be in bed, and when they opened the door to check on him, he wasn't there, but the door was open. So she asked the boys if they had seen a kid walk outside, and they said no. So it should mean that he's still in the house. That he was still in the house,
or they just didn't see him walk by.
Yeah, I don't know. But now we're still on Carly, so I'm assuming.
Sorry, no, I reread it again. I'm like,
right, it doesn't make sense. All right. However, Bobby is delighted to hear that not only is Nicholas not giving up the search, he also intends to expand the search area after hearing Michael's story. In the midst of this, Nicholas once again appeals to Lucky to find a way to get past their differences and bond again. His luck is better this time as Lucky agrees to hear him out. Lucky asks for the truth. Did you help Helena escape? Nicholas tells Lucky he had nothing to do with Helena's escape from GH, just from Spoon Island. Lucky listens as Nicholas explains that he couldn't turn Helena over to Luke, knowing Luke meant to kill her. His conscience wouldn't let him live with that. Lucky questions why Nicholas didn't call the police. Things take a downward spiral from there as Lucky summarizes that the deadly threat Helena poses to the Spencer family paled in comparison to the inconvenience of having Gia and himself officially charged for their minor crimes. Crimes which, Lucky points out, any one of his well-paid lawyers could have dealt with and had easily dismissed. Once again, Lucky turns his back on his brother and walks away. Sarah shows up at the gym and expresses concern that Liz is overdoing her workout. After some tense moments and angry gazes, harsh words are exchanged. Liz tells Sarah that she wishes Sarah had never returned to Port Charles. Sarah tries to ignore the comment and express sympathy for the loss her sister suffered, but Liz throws Sarah's words back at her and says she would never understand because she has never lost anyone or anything. They are both unaware that Lucky has entered the gym and overhears the entire exchange. After Sarah leaves, Lucky approaches Liz and informs her that she is wrong. Sarah has suffered a great... This is not his place to say, but okay. Sarah has suffered a great loss, her husband. After Lucky finishes telling Liz all about Sarah's late husband, Liz goes to find Sarah and ask if it's true. Sarah confirms it and admits her attraction for Lucky. Liz makes it clear that seeing Lucky and Sarah together would make her crazy, and Sarah promises that she would not go after him. Sarah uses an old childhood pinky shake to seal the promise and looks like they might be on their way to forgiveness. Liz even offers to have breakfast with Sarah soon. In the meantime, Lucky is working out some frustration. As he hits the bag, he flashes back to his recent encounter with Sarah. Maxie soon shows up on the scene, right after leaving Mom at the brownstone with a warning that she is grounded and is not to see Lucky. Ooh. She offers support to her crush, and he reconfirms that him and Liz are over. She soon hurries off to avoid getting caught. As Lucky is leaving the gym, he passes Sarah dancing alone in a room to some slow music and goes to her. She briefly shows anger that he betrayed her by telling Liz about her late husband. Lucky stops her with a kiss, and she seriously returns so much for the pinky promise. At the gym, Sarah and Lucky can't keep their hands off each other. They make out, tell each other how alive the other one has made them feel, fall to the floor in passionate kisses. Screech, Sarah puts the brakes on. She thinks they have to stop for Elizabeth's sake. Maybe at some other time they'll be able to get together, but now isn't the right time. Sarah comes up with the bright idea that one will help the other get through this, helping to stay away from each other. Yeah, sure, that's going to work. It barely lasts 10 seconds before they are in each other's arms again. Although they are able to stop from kissing, they end the day alone with their thoughts. In the Deception darkroom, Lucky is showing Maxie how to develop pictures. When she runs off to do an errand for him, Sarah shows up with news about the body. Lucky wants to get to Bobby, but Maxie somehow manages to lock Sarah and Lucky in the dark room alone together. Lucky decides to get back to work, but being in the dark near Sarah is too much to handle. She tries to get him to remember their vow to stay away from each other, but he decides that maybe fate wants them to be together. Sarah and Lucky have been wrestling with their attraction while waiting for Maxie to let them out. Sarah tells Lucky that they still cannot give in to their attraction. Lucky tries to convey that this will not be a one-night stand. He says this has been there for a long time. Ew! Sarah responds, "You just had a high school crush on me." She also tells him that she cannot betray Liz. He tries to kiss her, but she turns away, only to see Elizabeth's photo in the chemical mix. Just in time, Maxie arrives with a key to let Lucky out. When she sees Lucky with Sarah, she asks, "What was that about?" Lucky yells at the vixen. She looks so hurt that he apologizes and says that she can still work with him. Liz shows up at Windermere. She is looking for a necklace that was apparently not packed by Mrs. Lansbury. Gia is standing in the hall and overhears the conversation Liz has with Nick. Nick tells Liz that he misses her and hates the distance between them and wants to get back their friendship. Liz informs him that the one thing she learned from her breakup with Lucky is that you can't go back. Nicholas says that he hopes that she will one day forgive him and that they can be friends again. He leaves, and as Liz is leaving, Gia confronts her in the hallway. Gia wants to know how Liz can look down on Nicholas and announces that she is glad to have him. Liz says, of course you are, now that he has lost everything that mattered to him. She tells Gia that she knows that Helena somehow found out about the accident and threatened to expose Gia if she didn't help her escape. But when it comes to Nicholas saving the day and in the process he lost everything, she says that one day she will get what she has coming, and what goes around comes around.
So we're totally not getting into Maxie, but actually Maxie might still be in high school because the math is right now Maxie is 38. So she would have been 15.
Okay.
But also, so I don't know. I'm so confused. So we're going to go with maybe Maxie is not done in high school, but is older, still totally inappropriate.
Yeah, but I
And
don't
it's
think
not
that
like
Lucky was
Lucky's
looking
not
at her
showing the
like
interest
that.
in her yet.
No, it wasn't till way, way later that he had interest in her. So it is still
Spoiler
just like
alert.
a crush. Oh yeah, sorry.
No, we've talked about it. We've kind of insinuated it, all of that.
Yeah.
All right, so Bobby's friends gather around her, and Lucky is upset when Nicholas also shows up. Bobby insists that the body in the casket is not Carly, and she won't sit through the service that tells her her daughter is dead. She goes upstairs. Elizabeth comes into Carly's funeral all alone, but after a moment of hesitation, she goes to sit with Audrey and Sarah. Lucky enters the church with Laura and Scott and Roy. He glances at Elizabeth and sits in the pew in front of her. Finally, Bobby and Luke enter the church. The priest starts the service and asks for family and friends to share their memories of Carly. Jax goes forward first. He says Carly could be ruthless, but she always had her reasons. Club 101 was her declaration of independence. She was a woman who loved fiercely. He was glad that she was a part of his life. Next, Zander comes to the front of the church, and he tells everyone that Carly, do we really have to go through all this? This has nothing to do with Lucky and Liz. All right, so we're going to ignore a whole lot of this stuff because it actually has a lot to do with Carly. But long story short, confused-looking Carly shows up with a bruise on her forehead and has entered the building. She starts to ask like why everyone's there, blah, 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 blah. Liz tries to talk to Sarah and wonders if the service reminds her of when her husband died. Tactful, Liz. Good job.
Right.
Liz admits that it takes her back to when she thought Lucky had died. The Weber girls bond and eye Lucky from afar. He stays away, talks to Maxie for a bit until Felicia calls her away. Liz walks right past him, but goes and sits by Sarah, ignoring their stay away from each other vow. But don't worry, she's quickly reminds him of that. He says he isn't going to walk away when she is hurting. She admits that she needs him, and she says they are playing with fire, and Liz is the one who will get burned. She doesn't want to hurt her sister either, as they seem to be getting closer. Sarah and Liz hug, but then go their separate ways. Lucky is admitting himself into the hospital for a wrist injury, and Sarah just happens to be his doctor. They talk about how they can't be together, and Liz will get hurt. Taggart comes in and wants to talk to Lucky about Nicholas. Asks him how far he thinks Nick would go to protect Gia. This is why Taggart is seriously one of my favorites.
Mm-hmm.
He's still like, you know what? I feel like my sister did something wrong. Do you think that this guy's covering for her? Because that's still not cool. Lucky tells him that Nick is capable of anything, and look at what he's already pulled off. At Kelly's diner, Liz and Jason stare at each other for a while, until finally Liz decides to get up and greet him. They both say how good it is to see each other. He can tell something's wrong, and she tells him that she broke up with Lucky. She tells Jason he was right about Lucky all along, and it just took her a long time to see it herself. She partially blames the Spencer family for wanting the two of them to be together so badly. She asks him why he is back in town and then apologizes for it. He asks her about painting. Sarah is telling him how she ended up back in Port Charles, but Jason, not one for small talk. Where did Sarah come from?
I don't know.
Okay, Sarah magically arrived, and Jason, not one for small talk, takes off. Sarah comments that he is even weirder than before. She asks her sister if her and Jason had a thing, and Liz admitted that she was attracted to Jason, but nothing ever came out of it. She says things could lead somewhere, but she honestly isn't over Lucky yet. Then she vows to focus on herself, to meet new people, to forget about the past, which includes both Lucky and Jason. She tells Sarah she will be her partner in crime. On the docks, Lucky is taking pictures, and Maxie is oogling at him. Helping him. She tells him about this horrible math final she has to take the next day, and he offers to help her study. She manages to turn it into a study date at his place. She leaves to run an errand, and Felicia shows up. She gives Lucky the lowdown on Maxie's crush, and Lucky didn't see it, but he promises to let her down easy. Yeah, she was definitely still in high school.
Mm-hmm.
Lucky arrived at his apartment, and an amorous Maxie has already arrived to set the mood. I know where Aunt Bobby keeps the keys, she told Lucky. Lucky tried to stick with the program, math, but soon realizes Maxie's intentions and confronted her. He told her he was always going to think of her as a little sister. A defensive Maxie told Lucky that she was not a kid anymore and she was ready to be with him. I'm on the pill. She then stunned Lucky with a passionate kiss. Lucky pulled away and Maxie swore that she was ready and not naive about the whole thing. I've never liked anyone like this. Lucky repeated the kid sister routine, but an upset and embarrassed Maxie ran out of the apartment as Sarah witnessed her departure downstairs. Later, Lucky told Sarah about the situation as Maxie watched and heard him talk about his bad fortune of late with the opposite sex. Sarah tried to get out of the double date with Liz, but Liz told Sarah she was going to have a great time. What double date?
Right.
Okay. The girls soon realized they were doomed, and Sarah concocted an illness for Liz, which sent the boys running. Later, the two sisters completed a type of Cosmo quiz, and both were somewhat startled by the results that linked them back to many of Lucky's traits. Outside of Kelly's, Lucky is still talking to Sarah about how he never intended to hurt Maxie's feelings when Bobby, Scott, and Liz arrived with party supplies. They all go outside. Lucky tries to talk to Elizabeth, and she takes the opportunity to tell him that Jason is back in town. Lucky warns her not to rebound into something that could hurt her. Gee, I don't know, like maybe you rebounding with her sister?
Right?
Seriously, the only reason he was even slightly attracted to Sarah is because he was having difficulty being attracted, not even attracted to Liz, but like he was struggling with, why don't I feel this way?
Right.
She observes that Lucky seems bothered by the possibility of Liz and Jason together. Sarah asks Liz why she mentioned Jason to Lucky, and Liz supposes she was just shooting her mouth off. Lucky goes over to Felicia and tells her he ended up hurting Maxie, but he's glad she let him know about the crush before things got worse. Maxie observes them talking and blasts her mother for ruining her chances with Lucky after he's walked away. She points out that she never tried to screw up her mom's relationship with Luke and then stomps off. Not the same thing.
No.
Roy comes over and offers Felicia support. Lucky takes pictures of Sarah while she and Liz are dancing. Scott tells Bobby that he's been thinking about their kiss on the docks. They kiss again, and Liz spills her drink on Sarah, who goes upstairs to change. Lucky goes upstairs to get more film for the party. Oh my gosh. Thank goodness for digital cameras now. Well, whose party are we at?
I don't know. I don't know what the party was for.
Okay.
They didn't tell us.
Jason comes in and goes over and says hello to Elizabeth, who is surprised to see them. He says Carly invited him, but he also wanted to see Liz. Maxie is looking for Lucky. Upstairs, Sarah asks Lucky to help him with her stuck zipper, which of course leads to a kiss. Lucky tells Sarah how horrible he feels for hurting Maxie while Maxie is eavesdropping at Kelly's. Bobby shows up and needs help bringing in party supplies, so Lucky and Sarah help. Liz is in the restaurant and Lucky approaches her and asks if it's okay that he is there. Elizabeth tells him she's over it and he can do as he pleases. She then can't resist getting in a good jab by asking if he's heard that Jason's back. He asks if he's back for a while and she says yes. Lucky tells her to be careful and she says she knows what she's doing. Sarah tells him that he's jealous and that it bothers him to know that she may be seeing Jason. Lucky says that he's Sonny's enforcer and is dangerous. Lucky talks to Felicia about how badly things went and that he ended up hurting Maxie anyway. He apologizes but tells Felicia that if there's ever anything he can do, let him know. Felicia thanks him and begins taking pictures of everyone at the party, and Maxie walks up and calls her mother a witch and tells her to stay out of her life and leaves.
Why is it like repeating the same stuff?
It is, yeah. So I'll wind up taking out part of this.
This is saying the same thing about the zipper.
Yeah. Lucky goes upstairs to get more film and runs into Sarah. She needs help with the zipper and the two share a moment. They begin kissing hot and heavy. Maxie sees them going into Lucky's room together, and Maxie goes downstairs. Her mother comes up to her and tries to make Maxie understand why she told Lucky about her crush, but Maxie won't listen. Elizabeth came over to her and they talk about sisters, and Maxie told her that Lucky and Sarah were together. Elizabeth had to go see for herself and went upstairs. She opened the door to find them in bed together. She went out and Lucky tried to talk to her, but she was mad.
I wonder why.
No kidding. She told Sarah that she had told her what it would do to her to see her and Lucky together, but she said it was okay. But she says she was okay. Lucky said something and she slapped him. Liz goes downstairs and helps clean up the party. Elizabeth was upset and broke a dish. She asked Bobby if she could leave, and Bobby said okay. As she was leaving, Jason was coming in, and she tells him she needs to get away, and they leave together. Back upstairs, Lucky pleads with Sarah to stay, but Sarah just wants to get out of there. Liz is still upset about seeing Lucky and Sarah as she and Jason enter her studio. She starts throwing things around and voicing her frustration. Jason offers her support, but Liz cannot stop feeling bad for how much she wasted on Lucky. She says she wishes things would have ended a long time ago so she could have had something else she wanted, him. Liz pulls Jason in for a kiss. Coats and clothes start coming off, but Liz suddenly stops. She tells Jason she is using him to get back at Lucky. Jason informs her that he understands and it's okay. This makes Liz feel worse, and she admits that she cares for Jason and does not want to do anything that would hurt that. Jason says okay, but if she changes her mind, he's okay with that too.
Thanks, Jason.
And I'm thinking we're probably not going to be picking, like, it's not going, I don't know. I don't know where the next week is going to take us.
I don't know. All the Sarah and Lucky stuff makes me so mad, though. I don't know if I wasn't watching then or just wasn't watching as much, but like I did not remember quite how involved they got.
That's kind of what I'm thinking because, yeah, like I had just had my son, but I was obviously preoccupied.
Yeah.
I was tired. It probably wasn't, I mean, we didn't have Hulu, so if I missed it in the afternoon, and I probably wasn't VHSing it.
No.
So I have no idea. I also don't remember a lot of this. So I don't know.
I don't know, but it makes me mad as we're reading it because I'm like, come on, Lucky.
Yeah, there's just a lot of things. But I guess this is where Liz and Jason kind of really started.
We'll see. I don't know, because somewhere in here, she has to be with Zander.
Right.
Because Cameron is right around the age of our kids.
Yes.
And I mean, I know they age.
We covered Zander.
Yeah.
That's right. They did age up. Did they really age up Cam, though?
I don't know how much they aged up Cam.
I don't feel like they really aged him up that much. Hold on. He was born in 2004.
Okay,
so they only aged him up a tiny bit. Wait, it says that he's 22. Yeah, they revised it to 2002. So he was born May 11th, 2004, and then they revised it to 2002. So yeah, they only aged him up like 2 years, not a whole.
Okay. So we're not there yet.
Yeah, we have about a year.
Okay.
Oh, yeah. So I guess join us on Monday as, I mean, you know, we're kind of championing Lucky and Liz to get back together. It's 2025. Can you believe that we're seriously talking about this 23 years later?
It's insane. It's insane.
But these were the frustrating years. These were the non-Jonathan Jackson years that we had to suffer through.
Obviously, we didn't suffer through too much.
I was going to say, I don't think we were even watching. When we started to rewatch and learned of this disgustingness,
that's right.
It was very frustrating. There we go.
All right.
So yeah, join us on Monday as we recap this week's shows.
Have a good weekend.
And we'll meet at the pier.
Bye.
Bye.
If you enjoyed today's show, we invite you to go to pier54podcast.com to subscribe on your favorite platform. Don't forget to leave us a review.
And you can also follow us on many social media channels. Just search for Pier54 Podcast. Also, we are not perfect, so if there is something that we missed or messed up, just let us know by emailing us at pier54podcast@gmail.com.